Welcome to the Full Menu Podcast. I am your host, Donovan Gaspard, here with my co-host, Otis James. How are you doing today, bro?
Yeah. Well, we had a live stream this morning, man. I was crying on there and all types of other stuff.
Yeah, ugly face cry?
Ugly face, I try to cool cry. I try to do like Denzel Washington in Glory cry.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
Oh man, it was beautiful. A tear stopped and it crystallized right on my cheek, and then it turned into a diamond. I put it in a watch.
You put it around your girl. There you go. Good job.
What happens when you cry when you're special? Like stuff like that happens. So it's all good.
Man. Yeah, this is a safe space kind of. So listen, we are, as I mentioned before, we are the Full Menu Podcast. We got something special tonight, you guys. And as you can see, it's night where I'm at, but it's really not at the same time. It's 7 p.m. It's bright as hell right now. Thank you. My dogs are coming in too. They feel like they want to come join the party. So we got something special tonight. This is, I think, a topic that is definitely not talked about much. I know you and I have talked about it briefly. I think it's going to be a good conversation, man. And we also have a special guest with us too. So I'll bring him up later on to have a conversation with us. But wanted this to just introduce, what we got going on. But first of all, man, tell me, bro, how has your week been? It is Thursday, right?
Dude, you know what? It's been good. It's more like it is what it is, right? I think what happens, we just get used to all of that. And that's why this is a good topic, because we get used to carrying all this weight, emotional weight, all the stress of, providing, protecting, and all these other things. And we just get used to it, right?
Yeah.
So my week was good, man. My week was good. How was yours?
Week's been good, man. Let's see. We're Thursday. I don't even know what what day it is. You know how it goes. But no, it's been productive. It's been busy. It's been chaotic. I got a little anxiety right now because I'm packing. I'm going to Italy on Sunday, and
I was like, I'm packing too. Like, what you want to do?
Hey, let's go pull up on them, man. They don't want this. No, it's actually a little other kind of packing. I think because we will have police or in our vicinity, so we can't be talking this way. So, yeah, man. So we gotta keep it chill. We gotta keep it chill. PG. Not PG County. But no. We gotta. I'm going to Italy on Sunday, so I'm super excited about that. But I'm also like nervous and stuff too, because I see people are like getting like not able to get back in the country from other places. I don't know if it's just Mexico or like what's going on. We got tariffs. I don't know if they're gonna charge me if I go out there with an empty suitcase and I come back with some stuff. I don't know if they're going. I don't know what's gonna happen out there, man. So, but I also got anxiety from just packing and trying to like make sure I have enough things because I'm gonna be gone for like 2 weeks. So,
first world problems. You might have too many things. Is that what your stress came from? You just have too many things.
Listen, I don't want to be charged extra for my for a heavy bag. You know what I mean? So that's mainly the key right now.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I didn't try to get through customs with 12 escrow kits, and they had to stop me and ask some questions.
Those things are explosive, man. You got to be careful, man. If too many get together, they will spontaneous combust on your ass. So you better be careful.
That's good, man. That's good. Well, at least you get. What's the reason for going to Italy?
Hey, man, just a little vacay, man. Going to see my mom and my uncle, so I'm excited about it.
All right, I'm not gonna ask you who you're going with because
I'm going solo, man. Just come on. You just go see my mom, man.
Oh, okay. Your mom is she Italian?
Listen, my mom is a lot of things. I don't think Italian is one of them.
When we talk about leaving the country, we're like, you got warrants?
Hey, listen, bro. It's so funny, man, because I was just talking to her. I was talking to my uncle today, and I kept asking him, I was like, hey, man, what should I bring? I'm like, should I bring a suit? Should I bring, regular stuff? He's like, what's the weather? Like all that kind of stuff, right? He's like, man, don't worry about it. Just bring half a suitcase, and you're probably going to fill stuff up with the other half when you get here and start buying stuff. And then I was like, hey, man, do you think I'm going to be there long enough to where I'm like, I might come back with an accent or something? He's like, who, like your mom? Yeah, because my mom will change her accent depending on where she is for a small period of time. She was in Baltimore for like 6 months, and she kept saying to you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, why are you talking like this, Mom? You're not from Baltimore. You're from LA. South Central LA. Why are you talking like this? And then when she goes back to Italy or goes to Europe anytime, she always comes back, darling, could you pass me the grape jelly, please? I'm like, what is happening right now? Who are you? Why do you do? Yeah,
so eat this Roscoe's chicken and waffles and be
right.
quiet. What you trying to tell her?
she licks her fingers when she eat fried chicken. She, you know what I mean? So I'm like, like, calm down. You're not that hard. Like, it's all good. But
that's good. Hope you have fun.
I'm excited, man. I am. But again, tonight is really special because again, we are. If you don't know the Full Menu Podcast, we have conversations that truly matter. One of this, especially this one tonight, is the weight of that men carry. Why don't we talk about pressure? And when we talk about pressure, we're not talking about just like, just the pressures day to day. We're talking about life stuff. We're talking about like deep down stuff. So you're probably going to gain some insight. So men, step up. If you guys want to say something, if you want to chime in and actually, interject, that's fine. Women, if you want to say something. But I think this is kind of the opportunity for you guys to sit back and just like listen to some of the things that men go through, because you'll be surprised and kind of how we compartmentalize and how we manage, these stressors. And also you might want to look at your man a little differently. So when he's having those kind of days, it's like, you just might want to walk up to him and just give him a hug, because you'll be surprised at the things that we do. And you'll be surprised how far that can actually take us. So yeah. All right. So if you don't know about the Full Menu Podcast, we break everything down into segments. So, welcome to the table. This is our table. We are here. And now we're going to have conversations as far as the appetizers is concerned. So and I kind of give a breakdown for the top 5 things, right? So here we are. We got the top.
Well, first, what's the title of the podcast? I mean, this episode.
Well, that's what we said. We said we carry the load. What why do men
the weight men carry?
Why don't we talk about it? Right. Talk about the pressure. So that's basically it. And we break everything down into appetizers. So the first course we're going to have is appetizer, and we're going to defining the pressure, defining what that means. Right. So again, you may have a different perspective, a different understanding of what we consider to be pressure. These are kind of like off our topics or our pressures that we define as those. So again, this is the top 5 most men. The most men top 5 pressures most men carry in silence.
Yes.
Number 1, being the provider, the unspoken demand we have to handle financially.
Yeah,
that's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is being the protector, mentally, emotionally, physically responsible for others. Number 3, the leader role. Always expected to make decisions, solve problems, fix what's broken. Okay. Number 4, suppressed emotions. Taught to hold it in, never cry, and never fold. And then number 5, right, never fold. Number 5, unrealistic expectations. To be strong, successful, composed at all times.
Yes.
Right? We got to do all this shit with a smile on our face and not to have things, blow up in our face and blow up on other people.
Amen. We should aspire to be, calm, collected, and composed. That does carry some pressure because the world is not set up for us to remain that way. But okay, let's get into it. Being a provider.
So, being a provider. So our question for you then is, what's one role you've been playing that's basically started to feel that has been extremely heavy for you? What's one role that has been of those top 5? What's one of those roles that has been extremely heavy for you?
Well, I'd say 1 and 2. I'd say being a provider and being a protector. Being a protector probably carries, that's the biggest weight, because people think that when you say being a protector, that just means if somebody breaks in, you handle your business, or if we out and somebody tries to hurt the family, you handle your business. That goes without saying. But being a protector also means putting your family in a position where they're not in danger. And what does it take to do that? It takes finances, because finances determine where we're going to live. Now, I get my haircut over in Oakland. That's across the water. Okay, I gotta take a bridge over there, right? And it's a different environment where I live. We call this the peninsula in the San Francisco Bay Area. We call this the peninsula, right? completely different environment. I wouldn't live over there. But what happens if things went bad and I didn't have a choice and that was the only place that I could afford?
Mm,
Well, now I've got my family in that environment, my kids in that environment where they're going to school in that environment. We're going to and from work in that environment. That's I'm exposed, right? I'm exposed to that danger and I'm putting my family in a bad position. But you still got to survive, right? So
yeah,
it's we talk about finances, but the reason finances are so important is because finances help us protect those we love. So I would say for me, man, being the protector and provider go hand in hand for me. They
yeah,
both keep me up at night. Being a protector, there's a certain stress that comes along with that because of all of the people that I have to watch out for every day. If I'm at
yeah.
home with the family, I got to watch out for people trying to, harm the family. If I'm out on the road, I got to be, depending on where I am, I mean, I got to worry about people that look like me. If I go in
Mhm,
other areas, I got to worry about people that don't look like me. If I'm in
mhm,
between, I got to worry about the cops, acting up. If I like, there's all of those things are, add to my stress, and partially because of technology and how we're socialized to believe certain things, right? I've never had a negative interaction with a police officer that wasn't my fault ever.
mm.
So me being stressed about a potential interaction, where does that come from? Just because I see what's happening in the rest of the world, right?
Right.
So when we are leveraging technology and we're exposed to everything happening in real time in this day and age, all of that stuff adds to our stress. So it's going to be the top two for me, man. And the number four, the suppressed emotions, taught to hold it in, never cry. I just outgrew that. I'm not. Yeah, I'll cry right now. Matter of fact, hold on. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna go right now.
Go
But
ahead. You know, one tear come out again. This glory tear we're gonna worry about.
I'm just very, very secure with
Yeah.
who I am, man. And I think you get to a certain point where you really don't care what other people think, right? Outside of what's normal with respect to caring what other people think, branding purposes and marketing and all that other stuff, right? I'm not out here cutting up. I don't want to paint a negative image. But but me being my true self, I don't care what people think about that. So I don't really struggle with that one, but it's different for all of us, man. What about you?
Let's see. For me, it's probably the hmm, definitely the well. So I'll give you a story, right? So for me, it's a little different. So I was raised by women. I was raised by four women, and so I've never really had a person I can look up to, a man I can look up to as a role model to in the house. Right. I have my grandfather, but he had his own house with my grandmother, but I would go visit and I knew that. Right. And for the longest time, I would always feel as though I was missing something from my dad not being there. Right. But I think for me is like I had to understand, I had to get past certain stigmas and certain things because again, it was like every time my mom would leave and go on the road, she would tell me I'm the man of the house. But it's like I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what that looks like. So when somebody is, somebody's breaking into the house, I gotta be the first one, out front. I don't shoot a gun. Like, this is me at 12. But I think for me, it's like I've always been kind of the man. I've been the man of the house since I was 12, since as long as I could know, right?
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't the provider in the house, but I always was the one who had to make sure people were okay. Always had to be the first one to go check if we hit our bump in the night or if we, something happened. And I'm from South Central Los Angeles, so we would have like you hear gunshots. It's not go to the door, it's get down. You know what I mean? So, but it's literally seeing all these things, in the environment that I was in. And then now I'm not in those environments now. Now I have a son, I have a daughter, and I like to teach them like they have no clue the life that I had, right? They have no clue. They see the product, they don't see any of the crap that I went through and the stuff that I went through. Like bro, I was robbed at gunpoint like 3 times, like 2 or 3 times. I've been jumped, I've been chased, I've been pulled over by cops and harassed, right? So I've been like, these are all things that have just like this is like the normal stuff the normal shit that we go through, being from LA, being a black man from South Central LA, being a black boy from South Central LA, and being able to get away from when I graduated high school, and looking back and like calling and checking to see who, how everybody's doing, to see that a lot of my friends that were my age didn't make it. They got shot. They went in jail. They got 6 kids, 3, 4, 5 kids, whatever it may be. So it's just a different methodology and ideology. So growing up from that.
Did you
So
say
now,
5 kids?
yeah, bro. Listen, but listen, pulling out. I mean, they couldn't pull out a garage. You know what I'm saying? But they can definitely pull out a 9. But it was just different, man. Yeah. So for me, it's being able to like be those things, but not even know what those things really meant until I became that, until I was that. So I was doing a lot of these things, and I didn't have the finances, right? I didn't have all these things, but I was already being those things, because naturally, that's kind of just how we do. When we hear a sound, we got to be the ones that go out and check and see what it is, right? And again, I want to be very clear. This is no knock to single women who are out there doing their thing and stepping up and being those parents. But like I said, this is the pressures that we have for the men that actually step up and actually are there. Again, this is not something I want an award for. This is shit I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is stuff I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Not because, hey, oh man, listen, first of all, taking care of kids, or when you have your kids and you're taking care of them, that is not babysitting. What you doing? Babysitting the kids. No, man, those are your children. Those are your children. You are watching your children. You are being a dad. That's it. That's plain and simple.
Yeah, we're talking to you, black people. You were talking to y'all.
What you doing? Babysitting these kids? No, these are your kids. You were taking care of your children. You're handling your responsibilities. That's the difference. But like I said, it's just definitely being a provider. I had to learn that and understand that. And I had to get that from, being like, most of the time I'll be the last one to eat. Like I walk in, if I go get groceries or whatever, she cooks the meals, whatever. I know sometimes, the man's supposed to be the first one, but it just really, for me, it should be the man's the last one to eat. You got to make sure all your family is eating. What I'm saying? She sits down, she makes your plate. That's great, cool. But you make sure she eats first. Even though she served you, it's not about you in those moments. I've always been that way, where I make sure that everybody else eats first, especially my kids. You know what I mean? So
for everybody. We don't have those conversations about.
I'll let her eat first, and then I'll let them eat first, and then I'll say, "Hey, can you warm my plate back up?" It gets cold now. I'm sitting here watching y'all eat. That's how petty I am sometimes. Nah, man. But that's it. It's just like and then again, the emotional aspect, right? So as I've gotten older, I've been able to. I don't suppress as much. I don't feel as though like I can't be, emotional in a sense. But again, it's me not just being emotional. I'm able to articulate what's happening to me right now. I'm able to process and understand what's happening to me right now. And I think that just comes with age. I think that comes with experience. I think it comes with just, you being on this earth a little longer and experiencing these things. And then also having conversations with other men who are going through the same things. That's one thing that I don't think is on this list, is that women do have, regardless if you are a single parent or not, women have other women that they actually have these conversations with, and they compare and they talk and they do these things. Men, we don't talk about this stuff. We don't normally talk about this.
Well, we roast each other. And that's our therapy.
Yeah, that is our
yeah. Look, it's and a part of let me ask you this. You know that TV show This Is Us?
Yeah.
Did you cry during that show?
I don't remember it, to be honest with you. I'm not real familiar with it, but I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the show per se.
Yeah, I did.
You did? Yeah. You cried?
I didn't show it. I just tried not to blink, because it's going.
Little bitch.
I probably should have showed it to myself.
Okay,
so we're looking at all these things that we deal with on a daily basis, which for us is just normal. We can agree to that. It's just normal.
It's normal. Like, it's what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
I want to look at, because now you're talking about, there's a lot of different types of men out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, number 5 in the ranking of the 5 things most men carry is unrealistic expectations. That, for me, I've placed unrealistic expectations on myself from day one.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not. In my opinion, it should be unrealistic, because the mountaintop that I'm going to, it's not going to be crowded up there.
Yeah, exactly. It's higher. Yeah.
Right. So I want to acknowledge that these may be the top 5 on average, but it may be number 1 for somebody else. Just because it's not number 1 for me, it may not show up on my list, doesn't mean
Mm.
that that's not number 1 on somebody else's list. So, these are ranked, but they're not, I think they're all important because everybody has to live their own life. But I'm gonna throw it back to you because I want to get into a solution for this, but I think we're going to cover it in the next in the on the main course because I really want to hear Jimmy's story, man.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like,
do too.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jimmy. So at the Men Suffer 2 retreat that we went to, Jimmy was he taught me some things on a completely that I didn't even expect to learn, right? And it was really just how men interact. There may be men like let's bring well, I'll wait till we bring Jimmy up because
yeah.
I want to because I love his transparency and
Yeah, he is definitely shoot from the hip guy. If you like, he's going to tell you how he feels. He's going to tell you what he knows. He's going to tell you if he doesn't know, which is one of the best things, one of the great things about him. But it's funny though. I know Jimmy a little differently because I actually know one of Jimmy's teammates is actually one of my close friends from college too. So I got told a couple stories about Jimmy, and they're not bad by any means, but he's definitely he's a solid dude. And I always like to because I know a lot of people and in different places,
yeah.
and I love to get like confirmation from other people about people, right? Very similar to how you and I met. I met you, but I got confirmation from other people about you. Like, yeah, man, solid dude, man. He's definitely great guy, right? So I got all that stuff, right? He's a little full of himself, yeah, he's a lot shorter in person than he is in real life. But
You went
other
to
than
my
that,
Wikipedia page.
but other than that, Otis is cool, right? No, but same thing with Jimmy, man. It's like, everything that I've heard about him, and from other people has always been like solid, man. So I'm excited to have him on the show.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. All right, man. Let's get to it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have the Hugh bring him up because I think I am having. There it goes. Never mind. So I for some reason my dang thing is not working. So anyway, so this is Jimmy Ward. I kind of have him. There you go. There he is. What's going on, Jimmy?
What up, guys? What's going on?
Not a whole hell of a man. How's everything with you, bro?
Hey, no complaints at all, man. Today's a good day.
Yeah. So Jimmy, tell us about yourself, man. Tell everybody. And I know Otis wants to jump in and definitely, because he kind of has he has a kind of a guy crush on you, man. He actually hasn't stopped talking about you since we left. This was like a year ago. It feels like, and he's like, man, Jimmy, you need to bring Jimmy on. I really miss him, and he like his hair and everything. Doing this thing. Like, why are you doing that, man? What's wrong with you?
Well, the edible arrangement I sent you.
Yes. And the funny thing is I got a man crush on you guys as well, because I even showed Donovan the other day. I got a monthly calendar reminder in my phone because we all have millions of contacts and millions of people. And you guys have a monthly reminder on my phone to check in and make sure you guys are doing well in life. So you had a lasting impact on me as well. And I truly mean that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are, where you're from, man, what you did. Just tell us your story.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to give you the really quick version because I'm sure we'll dive into certain issues and topics as we move through this process. But I'm from a small town here in Maryland, Poolesville, a little town in Montgomery County. Went to a really small high school. My graduating class was somewhere between 50 and 100 people, man. And I was that classic all-American guy, right? Played all the sports, did all the right things, smiled, shook hands, gave everyone a hug, and made my way through high school really quickly and easily, and very all positive memories for the most part. Or at least that's what I remember looking back at it. And we'll deep dive into the men's health and traumas and everything else. And everyone has a different way to describe trauma. And then I went to a Division III school and played football and even played basketball for a year. And same thing, I kind of let my talents be what they were. I was always there. I never missed a workout. I thought I worked out hard. I thought I did everything the right way. And I was lucky enough to be the starting quarterback for a couple of years. So, in my mind, everything's going great. Probably didn't win as many games as Donovan's friend and others would want to win under my watch, but we did well. We weren't the worst and we weren't the best, but life goes on, right? So you're that small percentage to be a college athlete. And I was very fortunate when I graduated college. Within the first year of graduating, I was named the head football coach at a private school here in Frederick, Maryland, and was a teacher. And I did that for 4 years. and I loved it. And I had some very successful kids, man. Some of my kids I coached are still good friends to me to this day. I've been on some other shows, and one kid even made it all the way to the top and played at big time college football. And during the time, we'll reflect back on being a man, but at the time I made decisions that I thought was in best interest of myself and everyone around me. And we'll peel back the onion as I get to my 2024 year. But after 4 years, the life kind of took its course and changed courses, and I joined the Maryland State Police. I joined the Maryland State Police in 2010, and you guys will get the breaking news that I just resigned T-minus like 12 hours ago. To step away and to begin a new direction in life. And I'm excited for that. And I'm sure we can discuss a little bit of that as well. But in my time with the state, I was in patrol for a very short period of time. And then I started in Prince George's County, which is probably one of the rougher areas in our state. And you guys can see me on camera. I don't really fit the demographic of what Prince George's County was known for. But that's okay. It made me successful, and it was comfortable, and it's been in my skin, and you guys have met me in person and know who I am. And I went from there into narcotics. I spent majority of my career, over 12 plus years of my career, in the narcotic field. And I ended my last 5 years in Baltimore City, working in Baltimore City, which is, nationwide known for its violence, drugs, and all the negative things that come with it. Learned invaluable life lessons, and some of the people I've met will be lifelong friends, even some from my team, but some from the other team as well. You build friendships and you build relationships, and it's about connecting with people at the lowest level. We've had this discussion behind scenes, guys, but I told you guys before and in person, in my career, I was always able to kind of remove myself from the situation. And I think it's true about all aspects in life. If you can look at it in a mirror, and I was raised in the environments, some of the people that I had the dealings with were raised in, if I was them in their environment, who would I be? And vice versa. If you guys were raised in my environment, who would you have turned out to be?
Mm-hmm.
And that's made me successful in a lot of aspects. And, as I kind of move through the processes and going forward, I've got myself certified by the John Maxwell Group, and I'm starting a mentorship, leadership, and personal development program to better people with a different way. I want to learn to lead without a title. I don't want to be known as a coach. I don't want to be known as a teacher, and I don't want to be known as a cop, because those are positions, for lack of better terms, positions of authority, where people have to respond to you because of your title. I want to do it because genuinely people want to improve and they want to grow their personal development. I've always carried a title. The only title that I care about carrying for the rest of my life is being dad. Everything else is going to be about relationships, and that's kind of where I'm going. That's a really, really fast rundown of kind of the crash course of where I'm at and how I met you guys and where we're at today. And I'm glad to dive into any aspects of that, but I think that'll come out naturally through our conversations.
Yeah, amen. Now, you shared some live stuff with me, man, that you were going through at the time, and I don't know if you want to share or not, but
Sure.
I had some tough days before, and when we all talk about how tough we had it at certain times, it's almost like there's only been a few times where I was like, dang, I hear somebody else's situation. I'm like,
Sure.
mine wasn't as bad as I thought it. Matter of fact, mine was a good day. So if you want to share, man, and
Sure.
I don't know what the outcome is, because we haven't talked in depth since, but go ahead and kind of.
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. So, I literally, there's a lack of terms of what you would consider to be like a successful life, right? And it's what you consider the image of what a male is, or the image of what life is supposed to be. And for the outside, for a really long time, I lived what you would consider a very, there's no term for it, but as I speak, you'll probably be able to put a term to it, right? I grew up in a beautiful family. My mom and dad have been married for 40 plus years. I have a solid brother who's a great guy. We get along great. There's no family animosity. I had a successful career. I have no debt. We owned a house. We had no bills. I had 2 beautiful children. I was married. Everything on the outside looked amazing. Nobody in the world would have known what was going on. But internally, and I didn't realize this until getting help. So I want to say what the appearance was, and then we'll kind of peel back to what reality was. Okay. So from the outside, the world is good. For my department, I was named the investigator of the year multiple times. I was very successful. I made strong cases. I always worked to the highest level, to the fact that I was named my division investigator of the year in 2023, to then I got suspended from work on January 15th, 2024. And for lack of better terms, I heard from nobody of importance other than my friends. I had 3 or 4 guys that I worked with that consistently were good friends and my friends throughout the process, but command staff disappeared. The people that took care of you in leadership roles disappeared. There was accusations made of self-harm and all these other allegations. And you realize who really cares about you, because as time went on, I was provided no services for my condition, labeled condition, provided no services, was provided no outlets, provided no timing for you to kind of figure it out on your own. So I began that tour of self-discovery, and life happens and everything has been great since. Like I am the most present, clear-minded, well thought out person because I took the time to educate myself. I invested in myself, and I was willing to look in the mirror and say, all these things were good, but were they really good? And that's kind of like, I don't have much going on, but as you guys were talking earlier, there's your 5 points right there, the 5 things, because as you're speaking of them, it's funny. I think Otis's mindset was my mindset for the first 39 years. And I think it's going to be a cool conversation because there's a lot of things he said that was me through and through.
I'm so sorry you were living that way, man. I apologize for you.
Yeah, but I'm being very honest. Through and through, as he was speaking, I literally was like thinking of like, man, I got to get rid of that mindset. That was my rewired mindset. That's that thing. And part of it is getting rich in life, man. I cannot tell you, I have never been more present in my kids' lives. I've never been more present for my family. I've never been more present for friends. I've never been nurturing relationships. Like if I would have met you guys 5 years ago at a conference, right? Or at a sporting event, hey, we would exchange numbers. I'll get at you. And none of us would have ever spoke again. Right? But because we all know that. And you guys probably went through phases in your life.
I'll let you. I never know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're good. But now it's intentional. Like I intentionally surround myself by like-minded people. I surround myself with people that are all about growth and people that genuinely want to do it the right way. And I'm not saying it's always going to be easy. Like I can tell you right now, being a single father was not in my life plan, but doing it has gave me such a great appreciation for other single fathers, for single mothers, and honestly for the family element, to realize how tough it really is. And I'm actually more cherishing of the people that are in the 20, 30, 40-year relationships and have gone through that roller coaster of emotions and times, because I know no relationship is perfect, right? And that kind of really gave me a new appreciation to it. And that's why I started laughing when you're like a provider's finances, this. And I know that, the data, the 4-point datas and all the things, man, I'm so rich in life in a different way. I don't even like, you got to concern yourself with it and you got some obligations. But man, I used to like lose sleep over when the next overtime check was coming, or when's the next assignment, and when's my next phone going to ring, and when's the next case. Yeah. Man, the best thing in the world is my phone not ringing and waking up every morning and giving my kids a hug and kiss and not worrying about leaving the house.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then congratulations. And so it sounds like that wasn't a resign. That was more like, y'all kiss my ass, I'm out.
Yeah, and to be honest, like in reality, from the outside world, that's definitely it. I will say, man, and even since the time that we met last year, I've been blessed with a lot of forgiveness, man. I don't have, there's some things that I could resent, and I'm not going to say there's not a thought here and there where it's just kind of like, man, how did that go, or what happened there? But life is so big, everything happens for a reason. And I'm sure you guys have had these moments in your life as well. Time and space is the best thing, man. I'd give them all a big hug, wish them the best. And I also know that I'm no longer a part of that. And that's the biggest release in the world. Like, I don't walk around with that 8,000-pound gorilla on my back of stress and concern and fear and intimidation of retaliation and all those things that we first responders walk around with. That I think also creates, as you guys joke about, your interactions from a citizen side of them is, and we had this discussion in person, is they are working every day with the immense fingerprint and thumb of all the other politics that creates them to make some poor decisions in crunch time. And I do believe that. I don't think many guys join the job. Now, there's a bad apple in everything. There's a bad apple in real estate. There's a bad apple in athletics. There's a bad apple everywhere. I'm not giving an excuse for if there's a bad apple, but majority of the guys, when they join the academy, they joined it for the right reason. But something happens when they graduated that changes who you become as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've had we had Keith on, right? Keith, you remember Keith's show, right? Shelby. And he kind of said similar, to his experience, but he's still in and he's rocking out. But he's same thing. It's like, man, it's like just being in that space and like seeing how over time, right, how it changes you. That job, that type of job just changes you over time. It sucks.
Yeah, and there's good, bad, or indifferent. Some of the growth is probably needed for some people. Some of the growth is not good growth. My biggest one that I think it takes from you is it takes your common decency in the everyday person. If you look at the criminal element or the negative side of society, and this is Jimmy speaking. This is not statistical numbers that are guaranteed by Google machine if someone is to validate and fact check me. But if you're to look at 10 million traffic stops, what percentage of those traffic stops end with something other than I stopped you for this reason, here's your piece of paper, good, bad, or indifferent, citation, warning, whatever, and go. That happens all the time. You're driving up and down the road all the time. It's positive, positive, positive. But that one negative experience creates a trauma and starts to build that distrust in the community that spreads like wildfire. And everything nowadays, sadly to say, is on camera, guys. It's all on camera. So you don't see the news. You don't see that one officer that had one bad moment. They didn't show you his last 5,000 interactions with the public on body cam that were all positive.
Right.
Yeah.
We talk about baseball players. Baseball players, if they bat 300, they're a Hall of Famer. Basketball players, if they shoot over 50%, they're
Hall of Famer.
They're a Hall of Famer. Football player, if they complete 60% of the passes, they're amazing. And you're talking about a profession that if they make a error of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and I'm not talking about a fatality here. I'm talking about just bad use of words or an overreaction. I'm not even talking about the extreme reactions.
Yeah.
And you're crucified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
right.
You're right. Tough. It's really tough. And I'm not there to advocate from that end. We should be trained at the highest level. But at the same time, it's just the way a perception is perceived on that is it's a tough environment, man. And that's really why I want to get back into helping that community is a lot of guys, once you graduate the academy and in life, we all do it. We all need coaches. There's no more personal development. It's just running the rat race at a full speed pace with no growth, no direction, no looking in the mirror and taking a step back to say like, hey, what's normal? Because then you guys probably saw over our 3 days together. And I'm more of the outgoing. I was in narcotics. I interacted with people. I was a talker. And I was always outgoing in the police world. I wasn't a guy that wear a gun and a badge everywhere I went. I was not that guy. I'm not even going to fake that I was. I was the worst tactical police there ever was. I was good at narcotics. But it still took me a little bit to begin to have conversation because it's that trust in others, right? Like, what is their intention and what is the reason for it? And I think that relates to men as a whole in society. And I think that's really cool what you guys are speaking of is that's almost the perception of men and then magnify it with that title associated to you.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I one of the things I noticed, man, talking to you now and versus talking to you at the event, you look like and sound like and have the energy that a weight has just been lifted, man. Like
I was gonna say the same thing.
Otis, I've probably lost a solid 40 pounds since the last time you guys saw me. I have absolute mental clarity. I have invested my entire calendar year into myself in between these years to really educate myself and really to come back and I really, really have the intentions of making positive growth for people around me. That is dead honest, man. I've looked in the mirror and could I do the job? Would they want me back? Probably not. But if they were giving me the opportunity, I still don't want that opportunity because I'm not working with a part of society that wants that growth. I want people to be healthy.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, man.
I am too.
I'm proud of you. You'd gone through some tough stuff, and I remember. It was probably a conversation when Keith was on, I think just before Keith came on, Donovan and I were talking. I said, man, I hope he stays in the fight, man. Like I hope he stays in the fight.
Yeah.
And
I'm so far into the fight, it's not even funny, man. Like I said, I resigned. I have poured all of my savings into re-educating myself, basically put myself back through education. And because I also want to be credible, you have to have the certificates, you have to have the knowledge base, but it's all about life experiences and about your passion, but you have to hone your skills a little bit, right? Like, there's a couple of philosophies I've talked with people about, and I have two different ways I describe it, but it's, if you're not willing to do it yourself, then don't expect somebody else to do it. Right. And I think that comes from a parent standpoint. I think that comes from a professional standpoint, a leadership standpoint, and just in a growth experience. Like, if you guys were touched by my story, I've continued to meet with law enforcement chiefs, police chiefs, fire chiefs, people in the world. Man, there are stories out there also that guys are in the hospital, they're losing loved ones, their health is bad. There's so many stories out there to just, like, I hear them, dude, and I'm like you. I wasn't a crier. I wasn't the most compassionate person. I always had empathy, but I didn't know how to show my emotion. Man, I hear some of these stories now, and I'll walk away and I'll have tears coming down my eyes for 20 minutes. And it takes that moment of like, it's not that bad. Now, there's parts of it that suck. Like, let's just call it for what it is. But at the same time, tomorrow is a new day. Like, if every day I can process what occurred, and when I hit the pillow, you can't change the past. You can't wind the clock back, right? Yeah. So if I sit there and dwell on what happened yesterday and I dwell on what happened in my life, I'm just wasting away tomorrow. And there's so many cool things out there, man.
Absolutely, man. So what's your next move, man? Are you putting a program together? You mentioned you were putting a program together, but tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm in the process of putting a program together. Just waiting on some final paperwork to actually put it. I have some names for it, but it's not publicized yet. It'll be very soon. But the goal and the concept is to get into multiple approaches. But the first thing is to get back to my own first responders. I've heard it said different ways, but what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of military that see things and go through problems, but a lot of their problems happen away from home, right? Oh. So they also have a plane ride to decompress, and they get home. And I'm not saying they don't see a lot of stuff and they have their own things, but they have a very strong community for when they get home. They have a lot of support groups. They have a VA. Now, the resources might not be utilized to their extent, but there's a lot of programs. What I'm really trying to focus on is what I consider our hometown heroes, which is your nurses, fire, police officers, those guys that are and girls that are in the grind every day. Guess what? You're never off duty, because when you're off and you go to the grocery store, that could be the same guy you just had a problem with 4 hours before. So It's creating a personal growth program where you're able to learn how to compartmentalize things you saw, to speak about the traumas, but also to grow as a human and not lose what I consider I call it the academy mindset. My goal in my program is to the mind you join the academy with, for whatever department, whatever program you're with, and you guys could do this in real estate or you could do this wherever else, that fire and that mindset, the first 6 months you get into your profession, I want to keep that youthful, that drive, that passionate mindset through the duration of point A all the way to the finish line, because you're doing it for the right reasons. If you had that initial mindset, you joined whatever profession it is, law enforcement, real estate, working at the grocery store, you joined it with a purpose. You joined it with a fresh mind. No one's taking a job with a miserable mindset, right? Because you wouldn't do it in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's taking that and trying to create a development and a program to keep everyone in a really positive and growth-driven mindset to work on themselves, because if you're good, everyone around you is good.
Absolutely.
Amen.
No, that's great, man. Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm with Otis when it comes to, like, I remember just like you and I, when we linked up on text message the other day, it was just crazy, right? I don't even remember like how that conversation even started, but I'm glad it did, and it was just checking on you to make sure you're good. And then I just can tell how excited you were in just the text messages, and to see you now and just remember where we were sitting in that room. This was you the whole time in that room. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you weren't engaging or you weren't taking it all in, but you were also in a space of like you were like dysfunction, right? There's a lot of things I remember, and I was like, you were like, the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and and I was like, see you now, man, and to see that smile on your face and to continue these conversations. And dude, I am so happy and proud of you for doing what you're doing. It takes so much. It takes a lot of courage. I don't think people understand to look and recognize how much it takes to think differently from when you were God your whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to change that mentality, you know, in the middle of your life, but because you see the impact and you see the necessity, right? Because you see that this who you were could be passed down to your kids.
100%.
You know, like that could be your son, could be you, just a little of a version of you, and like to recognize those things, so to make those changes, to understand that we know the generational curses that we need to break as men. It starts with us. It starts with us, and it starts with us being able to learn that, but then to turn around and teach it. So I commend you, dude. I am proud of you. I'm so excited for you and this whole program that you're about to kick off, dude. Dude, I love it. I love it. I love it.
No, I appreciate it. And Otis, to get into a good conversation of something you said during the appetizer about like your fight or flight and your protecting and all that. And one of my biggest things in the program, and I'm not going to get into the science of it, you guys don't care about my studies of the brain, but is your prefrontal cortex is the biggest part of your brain, right? And that's where all your that's where trust is, and that's where your oxytocin and your dopamine and all your happy emotions, that's where they're stored, right? And I do believe, and part of my training is most men live, and I know for a fact, law enforcement, they live in that like primitive brain, that really small lizard, which is distrust. That's where all of like your cortisol, that's where all your testosterone's pumping. That's where all the negative is. And part of my program and part of what I'm trying to, not even my program, just people I talk to in life, and I'm going to have the conversation with you now since you said it earlier and it kind of provoked my thoughts, is we should really train ourselves. And I really wish across the board, everyone learned to be in that trust and that prefrontal cortex. And if you're so squared away and you're so dialed in and you understand yourself and you're confident in your abilities, if that one time you're walking down the sidewalk, you need that fight or flight, or you need to protect your kids, you should be so highly dialed in your brain and so trained that you can go to that 1% area that's your small survival, just I'm here to defend the world mindset. Instead, I think a lot of us, you know, and I'll be the first to admit it, because like I said, everything starts with yourself. Man, I started living up in the big part of my brain, and it's cool to see people with a positive light. Like, I'm not saying I can't go there if I need to, but in my 15 years of law enforcement, and I worked in Donovan can tell you, he lives in the area. I worked in two of the worst areas in all of Maryland, hands down the worst areas. From a crime side, I live
in Maryland. I don't live in those areas.
No, I know, but I'm saying I have this many use. In my career, I have this many use of forces, right? And that's working in tough environments, putting myself in the front of danger, and working. But I always trusted the person I was talking to. I was always confident in the words I said, and I knew I was going to treat them with respect and dignity. I didn't have to go to that. So, you know, I always laugh when I hear, and that's why I said I was you for a long time mentally, when it's like money, 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 provide, and no one's going to get near my kid because I'll defend them. And I'm like, but if I was to ask you, how many times walking down the street to your barbershop or anyone else have you had to drop and throw knuckles? Probably never, right? Zero. So if you were living in your big part of your brain, that prefrontal cortex, and you started to say, man, how's your day? How's this? How's that? And you engage in those conversations and not look at them, think about it as a negative. You know, maybe it's just a different perspective. I can't speak for anybody else. It's worked for me, but it's amazing now when I go to the park, I don't pass anybody on the sidewalk. I don't make a comment to. I don't go anywhere where I don't give a compliment. I try to every day come out of the day and say, who did I compliment? And tell them, man, because it's one time when I hear it back in return and someone's like, man, I like your shirt. At first, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Then I was like, at the end, I'm like, hey, man, I don't even know who that person was. They liked what I was wearing today. That's pretty cool. So it's kind of silly. It's kind of silly, but I do think, you know, from a men's health perspective, and the title of your show, if we can get a lot of men that are in really tough environments to start using the big part of their brain, your creativity is going to grow. Your thought process is going to grow. Your acceptance of other people is going to grow. And I think that's a trickle down effect that our community, you know, there's hot topic. We could talk, I'll never talk it out loud, but just like politics, right? Like call it for what it is. No one wants to talk about it. But if everyone just had a more wide view of like, it's every 4 years is going to be a different emotion, maybe every 8. No one's been in charge for 29 straight years. That's never happened.
Yeah,
but we get so bent out around the axle, you know, it's just different topics. It's hot topics, but I think it's really important to get people up into the big part of their brain and really see the positives of the world. Because I think there's way more positives in everyone's life. Just the ability for you guys to be on a podcast and to talk to each other and engage with other people, man, you're the small percentage of the world that gets that opportunity. And that's something to be really grateful for.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you talk to men and you ask them, all right, well, when was your happiest time in your life, right? Outside of the moments when our kids were born, that was kind of, well, most of us, because I know some people that found out that they had a kid born after the fact. But the happiest time in our life was back when remember when we were kids, and it was, you know, and we would just go outside and play. And if a new person moved on the block, we would just meet, and the world didn't teach us that we were so different and that this group was better than this group and this group hates this group. And before we were socialized to dig into any of that, that was the happiest time in our life. And I think what you're describing, that openness and seeing the world through a set of lenses without any predispositions, I think it's in alignment with what you just said. I think the sooner we can get back to that, the sooner that we can resolve a lot of the issues that really create themselves, right? Like you mentioned, how many interactions on the barbershop did I have to make me think that way, right? And I said earlier in the conversation, I have no data to support why I think that. And but you know, we're in the technology age. We're always seeing, well, what if that was me? Or, oh, look what's happening there. Well, what if that was me? Or what if that happens to me? I live in the suburbs. My parents have been married for 40, probably like 50 years or something like that. Right. I've had a really good life, and I was fortunate enough that every negative thing that happened to me that impacted my quality of life was 100% my own doing. So there's no room for victim mentality over here, and so you know I'm fortunate in that regard. But you know I just want to piggyback on what you said, man, and I also want to thank you for being, you know, transparent with us, not just here, but even at the event, right? Because even when we just met in the lobby, you know, men meeting for the first time, it's not like women. Women can meet for the first time and it's us. We're like, okay, that dude probably doesn't like black dudes. That dude probably doesn't like white dudes. That dude probably it's all these
You had a whole story. You had a whole story about it before you actually even talked to him.
Yeah,
well, you know, you guys.
By the time I got to meet Jimmy, in my mind, he was the Grand Wizard, Jimmy Ward.
Well, the funny thing is you say that is you guys probably don't know this, but when I was told about this retreat, it was through a friend of a friend of a friend, and this is no exaggeration. It said, "Hey, this doctor's coming in. It's a retreat for first responders to focus on mental health." That's what I was told. So I said, no problem. I'm in. And lo and behold, when I walk in there, no one's said this. I'm the only Caucasian guy in the entire group. There's no other first responder, and I'm in a room. I'm in a room with all minorities of different kind of men, and I'm the white cop.
We here to beat your ass, Jimmy. That's what they was here to do.
And obviously, given the circumstances of what was going on at work, I said, okay, this is going to end up really well. And I remember her. She said, "Hey, are you going to stay in the hotel room at night?" And I said, "Nah, I'll go ahead and drive that hour home." And
I ain't staying there with you motherfuckers. I don't know like that.
But coming back the second day, man, it was the best thing that ever happened, because I honestly, it was just, that's who I was, man. And it's funny because Donovan, when we ended our conversation there and talked about our friend Rob, and he's like, you know, so-and-so, and I'm like, oh, he was the prettiest linebacker I've ever met. This dude had his jewelry on at practice. He got his studs in his ears. He had his hair done all the time. But it made me reflect that I actually, you know, I don't know how to say this in a proper way, but I knew my moral code was always really strong, and I knew my values were always really strong, and I genuinely knew my relationships were always impactful. But I lost that, man. When I was in law enforcement, I lost that. my conversation with Donovan, when we talked about his friend, one of the first things that came to mind is, and he could tell you this, I could literally tell you, Big Rob wore number 56. He had his diamonds in, he had his jewelry on. It made me realize that I actually connected with people for a living. And I remember every relationship I've ever had. I remember how impactful it was. I remember how important it was. And I remember the bad ones as well. So it kind of brought me back to like being human again. And it probably meant nothing to Donovan, and it probably meant nothing to everyone else around me. But it was one of those small conversations that I had over the time with many of people, but this is one that's personal, that made me realize I was always a good guy, man. I always did the right thing. And it's time to go help people again, because I was kind of over it, but I wasn't. I kind of felt sorry for myself, kind of had that imposter syndrome, didn't trust the world. You know, as you guys met me in the very end of the summer, it was still new and fresh. And like, I knew I was growing. I knew I was willing to be accountable. I was willing to be vulnerable, but I didn't know quite what for at that time. I didn't really have my why. I knew it was my kids. I knew it was to give a better life, but I didn't really understand. And those kind of connections is what made it really impactful. You know, like, man, we can make a huge, huge difference in this world if we just open our arms and say, give me a hug, you know? Yeah. And that's a different mindset to have from coming from where I came from.
Yeah, man. I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna ask you one more question.
You can ask me as you need, bud.
If you had the chance to go back to when you were a kid, let's say 7 years old, and have a conversation, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them?
Yeah.
You want the selfish answer or the worldwide answer?
I want the selfish.
I want the Jimmy answer.
All right. The selfish answer is, if I thought I was working out hard, work out 50 times harder, because God blessed me with a lot of good gifts, and I took advantage of it and just let my skills get me where I went. And that's where I ended up where I was. And I met the people that I met, and I'm happy about every one of those relationships. But I truly wish that I knew that 10,000 hour rule, if I would have applied myself, not just to do the bench press for 135 because coach said do it 3 times at 10, but apply myself in a method and a madness, I don't necessarily would say it would change my athletic outlook, but I think it would have changed my direction in life and had a much more impactful and deeper purpose with people as I grew and developed through each stage of my life.
Yeah. Amen.
I don't think I ever applied myself to the fullest of my potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worldwide answer would just say, you're not always a big fish in a small town, and you're one out of 8 million, billion, thousand people in this world. Laugh at yourself and enjoy yourself because everyone else is laughing at you, and have a good time doing it.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have that mindset as a young child. But selfishly, honestly, I really wish, if I thought I was working hard, I wish I would have applied myself 5 times harder.
Yeah.
Even from a school standpoint, I was good with getting A's and B's by just showing up and turning in my homework, right? What would have happened if I actually read a book, and what would have happened if I actually opened the pages? What would have happened? And I played at a Division III college, guys. By no means was this Alabama, right? It was a small little Division III school, but we still had tutors. We still had people that are helping us on papers. We still had these programs. I couldn't imagine if I actually applied myself to it. If I would have actually put the time and effort in myself, what would have been my growth at that time, and where would I be now? Because I just turned 41, but I'm sitting here and I've read more books in the last 12 months than I honestly have read in the last 40 years combined, and I didn't understand the power of the book. I didn't understand the power of words. And that's only learning. And I think that's key for everyone. And I'm sure you guys started your business and you're real estate. You're not creating something new. You're just taking a model and a success pattern, and you might throw a little sprinkle here and you might throw a little sprinkle there, but you're just following the roadmap and applying new principles to being successful. Now, if you went from scratch zero and created an entire real estate market, I'm sorry, good job. Like, I missed it, but there's not many people that are doing that, right? And that's the same thing with my personal development. That's the same thing with talking to people. All it is learning how your mind works, how to invest in yourself, and really make growth, and take something that somebody already has and just add a little bit of you to it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, we haven't even had a chance to even get through the main course, but I love it, man. This was awesome. No, man, because it's actually funny, because I'm sitting here listening and I'll go ahead and go through the top 5, consequences. Basically there are impacts to us as men by suppressing certain things, right? By keeping these things. And I think that that's what ends up happening. That's why men typically die earlier. That's why we're probably more successful with suicide. It's like, that's why we just want it all to end, right? And I remember when the psychiatrist, kind of yelled at you, Jimmy, and I can say I was triggered by it. And I think I was more triggered by it than you were. Because I remember, it was like, she asked the question of like, do you know why people commit suicide? And you were like, well, yeah, kind of, sort of, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't operate that way. That's not how I would think. I wouldn't, but I don't support it by any means. But she's like, no, you don't know. And I was like, why the fuck is she yelling at him right now? It's like, you asked him a question. He's trying to give you an answer. And I was like, this is why men shut down. And this is, what I mean? And here we are at a Men Suffer Too conference, and we're having a woman yell at us and tell us we were wrong. And, just off of a general question. So these are the five consequences of unspoken pressure. Number one is mental health decline. So it's depression, anxiety, and chaotic stress. Those are things that actually impact us, right? Number two is relationship strain, emotional distance, communication breakdowns, right? Number three is burnout and fatigue. So, you guys talked about this earlier. We feel like we get overworked and overwhelmed with things. We keep, just to keep up the image and keep up the strength of what it is that we have because we're supposed to. You got number four is self-isolation. So sometimes we pull back, right? We sometimes, for us, I know for me, one of the things I do is, like I said, I'll pull back just to reassess, just to kind of like get my game plan together, right? To figure things out. So it says you pull back from friends, pull back from family, and pull back or from your partner. Emotional disconnection. You start to feel numb, misunderstood, or lost, right? Those are the top five consequences of unspoken pressure. Sure. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. Look, men will hurt somebody. A man will hurt somebody, and it's not always other people. Sometimes it's himself, right? But keeping that stuff suppressed is, over a long period of time. And I know a lot of it has to do with perspective, but I don't judge anybody for feeling like, look, I'm done here. I'm done. I'm giving up. I don't judge anybody because everybody has their own tolerance level of what they can handle and so on and so forth. So I think, those are consequences that come along with not reaching out, not having healthy relationships with other men where we can talk like we're talking now. So I don't disagree with any of those, but oh man, I wish I could talk about this longer. I gotta teach a class. I literally got
bring everybody here, and this is like we're gonna have real life shit right now, man, and then we can talk about you acquiring real estate. No,
oh yeah. Hey Jimmy, I mean, I hope you guys keep this conversation going. Sure. I'll tap back in if you guys are still on. Jimmy, I'm gonna reach out to you directly, man, just to check on you. I'm excited to hear about your journey. Yeah. Donovan, I'm really proud of the progress that you've made joining the all males figure skating team. I know that was a big goal for you for many years, and even though you're not starting, being it
was the triple quadruple that really it was hard to do, man.
And again, no judgment. Raw friends.
Give me a minute. I'm gonna give you an analogy because I think you could consume it, and I think it answers a lot of Donovan's questions. I was asked to give a speech a couple weeks ago, and the way I related this entire process was to an Oreo cookie. Okay. And the way I'm gonna give you a really quick version of this, but if you eat an Oreo cookie once a day, no big deal. And you start eating them over and over and over, it's no big deal. And I related to my law enforcement career, right? And I started eating a pack of Oreos every day, a sleeve of Oreos every day. You're not gonna notice the change overnight, but we all know it was a bad choice. And over time, it messes with your mental health, then messes with your physical health, and then you start to pull away. And as he's reading those five things, that analogy kind of clicked into my mind is if you start by taking one little bite of something you think is harmless, you're not going to see it overnight. But as you continue to do it over and over and over on a regular basis, that harm becomes something you can't get out of the way of. And that's kind of the way that as you were speaking and saying those things, I think they're all very true. And I think that sadly to say, they're all almost like negative building blocks. As you continue to let one get out of control, the next ones follow suit. So just a way to think about it, man. But good luck with your class. Tell the guys that they're way more important than us, and I think that's really good.
Tell them I said that. You know what? I hope that their first deal burns and crashes.
They'll meet us, because you're in our real estate family
I
too.
know,
So.
that's what I'm saying. So and I don't see him. I'm not worried about it. Like the thing is, you ain't training me. I'm 6'4", 245, so I'm good. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll catch
All right,
up with
well,
you.
I'll talk to you soon, man. Yeah, let's definitely stay on. I love this conversation. And there are tons of people who are probably just to tune in, just kind of give you guys a catch up here real quick. Jimmy Ward is on. He is just recently resigned from the Maryland PD or
Maryland State Police. Yeah, Maryland State
Police. And now he is taking on the responsibility of becoming I won't say motivational speaker, but more of a coach and a well, hell, I'll let you say it. I'll let you say it.
For lack of better terms, personal development coach, mentor, and someone that's creating a program to help others in their personal development and leadership goals.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So again, super proud of you. Jimmy and I met back at when was this? This is
July or August?
July? Yeah, I think it was July or something like that. Anyway, but we met at a Men's Suffer 2 conference, and he and I were both participants. I was coming there to support Otis, and I heard about Doctor, but I had some recommendations on some things.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this, but I wish her well with her program. I think it's definitely something that's needed. I kind of wanted to do something similar, but I won't say similar, just something a little more broad. That has a true impact on, from kind of soup to nuts for us, because I think that, she's just some of the things that we're doing, we're kind of just scratching the surface. And I think it's definitely something that should be a little longer in duration, but also really focused on certain things and really have the ability just to have a conversation like this. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons I really do love my podcast. And, with both me and Otis, is that this is kind of the space to where we can just have a conversation, man. And just let it go and let's see what happens. Yeah. So I really appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been great to catch up with you guys.
Awesome. So listen, this is the just give everybody a recap. We talked about earlier of the 5 things that that basically men carry on in silence. One of them was one being a provider, 2 being a protector, being a leader, suppressing emotions, and then unrealistic expectations, right? And again, there's quite definitions going on with that, but they can go back in the recording and listen up. Then the most recent consequences of the unspoken pressures, right? These are the top 5 things. And we talked about mental health decline, depression, anxiety. And I would say even a lot of these things don't even talk about the physical impact that it has on suppressing the things that we go through. The relationship strain, right? There's the emotional detachment, the disconnection, the communication breakdowns. We get burned out, we get fatigued. You got self-isolation, we pull back. You got emotional disconnection. But then also, these are the second part of everything we're going to talk about is basically, we want to get into a conversation about reclaiming strengths without suffering, right? Reclaiming so we talked about the things. I don't like talking about problems. I like talking about solutions. I like to hear the problems just so we can kind of figure out what it is, but I don't really like dwelling on the problems. I'm real big on just let's find a solution. Again, I think it was one of the comments that we talked earlier, is that we like to fix things, right? We like to make it better. We like to make it, to improve it, or to understand it, because we want to fix it that it operates the way it's supposed to. So these are the 5 ways men can start unpacking the pressures. All right. So 1 is talk about it before it explodes. All right. Conversations like this work a lot. Sure. Let one person in your mental space. Number 2 is redefine strengths as balance and not burnout. Right. I'm big on that, man. I'm really big on redefining words that have impact to you. All right. One of the words is pride. For me, pride is no longer an invisible thing that will stop me and prevent me from having a conversation or breakdowns between people. I look at pride like you look at what's another version of pride. Lions have a family. That's a family. Yeah, I look at it, we're ferocious creatures. We're beasts, but we also have we protect each other, and that's what a pride does. So I look at it from a standpoint, it's like I can have a conversation with my brother, you, Otis, or anyone else that has the same mindset, to where we can have these conversations, and now you are part of my pride. So I don't make it as something. So I've redefined what that means to me, right? Yeah. So I think it's very, very important for people to do that. Number 3 is say no without guilt. I think a lot of people just take on stuff, right? I think that as men, I call it juggling chainsaws or spinning plates, trying to avoid things from breaking down or things from falling apart. Because I always say, if you're juggling chainsaws, don't drop a chainsaw. You might lose a finger or a foot. And I think that's what we do a lot. And sometimes we have to say no. We have to say, you know what, I'm good. I don't think I can. I don't think that's within my capacity, right? And I think we have to also understand that that capacity aspect, right? It's not that we don't want to do those things. I just can't. I got enough going on. I got life. I got family. I got the kids. I got my dogs. I can't do all these things. Sorry, I can't do the fantasy football conferences or do the fantasy football draft this year because I got the kids. Things like that. Number 4 is ask for help without shame. Reaching out to a friend. Hey, you know what? I really don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? Do you think you can help me out with this? Don't feel as though you got to take all this stuff on by yourself, because again, having a conversation can actually spark influence in other things, because you'll be surprised. Like we talked about earlier, is you're doing your program. I'm writing a book, right? Like we start having these conversations. So I start to see what you're up to. You tell me what you're up to. I tell you what I'm up to. So we're sharing information. Number 5 is put yourself back on the priority list. It goes back to what you said earlier, man, is you investing in yourself and your mind, because you can't help anybody unless you help yourself. As they say right before, if a plane goes down, what they say, first thing you should do is put your mask on first. So it's really making yourself a priority and making yourself the number one person to be taken care of, so you can take care of everybody else. Because if you don't do that, you can't really do anything. What are your I guess your experiences with this?
Man, I think it's absolutely amazing, and I wish we would have had that conversation in February or March last year, and I didn't have to wait until the summertime to begin to have that conversation, because everything you said right there makes you the number one, and it's not making you number one to be selfish, but it's making you good so that you can be good for others. And
Absolutely.
I had to learn how to have a conversation again. And for me, it was my mom and dad, right? Because I knew they were my trust tree, and they knew who I was, but they didn't know what I was hiding. They didn't know what I was going through. They didn't know home. I just made everything good. So having that conversation, right? Balance to burnout, same thing. At work, it was work, 60, 70-hour weeks. You're not going to, no human's going to run that rat race. You're going to burn out, and you're going to reevaluate. And the other one, saying no and putting yourself in position. I mean, those literally are setting boundaries and regrowing yourself as a human being to do it in a successful way. So, man, I think it's, honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot of conversation. I think those types of topics and those types should be encoded in everyone's mindset and their daily growth, because it's, like I said, it's not selfish, but if you're good on yourself and you're helping you, everyone around you is going to be good, man. Like if you're good, your kids are good. If your kids are good, school's good and business is good and everything else. But it's also easier to say to be good. Like I don't want you to think the world is perfect, right? And we both, I think, have this understanding that we're talking about your majority. Your consistency should be there. You're going to have these bumps, and you're going to have these hiccups, and you're going to have these unexpected things, man. I pray every day for everyone to have good health, but people don't get good news every day, right? You can't prevent what they call it an accident, right? A car accident. You can't prevent certain things. You can do as much mitigation and lower your percentages to be in less risky situations all the time. But life does happen. Let's not sit here and act like if you just have these amazing guidelines and these amazing principles that things aren't also going to rock your boat, right? But you're going to be more equipped. You're going to be more equipped when the boat starts to when the boat starts to sink or start leaking water. You're going to be more prepared to fix that problem before it becomes a panic attack. And I think that's key, in your conversations and things. Like something could happen to me tomorrow. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to pick up the phone and call you right away. But I know once I get my moral code, get my balances back, I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, D, this is what's going on. Have you ever been through this? And go. It's not something that's going to be on the forefront every day. I don't want everyone to think we're just going to walk around as men. And every time, I stub my toe, I'm going to start crying. It doesn't work like that. No. But I think if you create that principle that this is more the standard and more the accepted practice, then it's going to become greatly improved across the board.
Absolutely, man. I think that, I think so. It's funny you talked about prayer, and like one of the things that I've definitely been getting more into is prayer. Um, and also like having more of an understanding of like my relationship with God. And understanding that, we can sit here and as human beings, we contradict ourselves all the time when it
Sure.
comes to what we believe and our beliefs, right? Because there's two different things: what you believe and your beliefs. So, for what we believe is that God doesn't make mistakes, right? We truly say that, but then our belief system tells us, then like, well, then we ask questions. Well, why are you doing this, God?
Yeah.
Like we ask the question, or if we ask if, man, if you just do this for me, Lord, just help me out this one time, or whatever it may be. But it's like you have to understand, like these things happen to you for a reason. So everything. So I know you talked about your past and what you say to your prior self, right? I've come to the realization that, you know what, I had that same thing to like looking back at what could have happened or what didn't happen or I wish had happened, and actually become and like accept it,
Sure.
because God doesn't make mistakes. And once you
No,
get in
and
that space of accepting those things,
Yeah.
your freedom has just been like you've you were just so like released from all the burdens and all the bullshit that you've kind of put yourself through. And I'm not saying that anything that you did was like, you were looking back and like you felt a kind of way about it, but it was just really more of it just got me present to, man, I wish I would have found this shit earlier. I wish I realized it earlier in life.
No, 100%. And it's funny
You know?
because I wasn't a big church guy, but as I went through the Maxwell program, and he has a lot of faith based into his organization, and it made me realize you can believe in yourself all the time, but if you don't have something else to go for and something else to believe for, where do you fall on the spectrum? Like if you
Mhm.
just only worry about yourself and focus on yourself,
Yeah.
where is the growth? What are you growing for if there's not a bigger, higher being?
Right.
So I'm young in that growth pattern of faith and understanding it, but it's definitely something that is intriguing, and I definitely think there is a calling and a higher purpose for all things. Because if not, where are we headed? What is the
What's your
finish line?
destination?
I don't think there is
Yeah.
a finish line. So we got to be
Yeah.
able to pass that baton off to somebody else and give them the reason that it's all happening for at that point in time for something else.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing now. I think a lot of men are realizing these same things that you're talking about, because we start looking at our legacy, right? Now that's the most important thing for us is, but it's not our legacy to change for our children. It's to change, like you said earlier, change us so
Yeah.
that it doesn't have the same impact on them. And now
Yeah.
we've created
If I
this
just started
positive.
telling, yeah, sorry, if I just started telling them what to do and I didn't start doing it myself, what kind of father is that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because you remember what our parents say, you do what I told you to do, right? Don't do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing. Well, no, we're now parents who are doing as we say, but we're also doing what we said we're going to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's definitely a difference. So, man, I appreciate you for that one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So now, yeah. So anything else you want to touch on these five here? So again, the five were talk about it before you explode. Again, this is just the unpacking the pressures that we have as men,
Sure.
right? We don't talk a lot. So these are things that we are trying to do. These are solutions to help us get over those things. If we are feeling a certain kind of way, and men, I know that we can, Jimmy and I definitely understand. We go through these things. This is not something new. You're not the only one. I think that's a mindset that's one of the first things we have to get over too, is that we think that our situations are very unique to us individually.
Hey, I don't know who this guy is. Maybe you know Mike Johnson. He's telling us to stop ignoring the obvious. I'm not quite sure what that is. Do you know what the obvious is in the comments?
Let's see, which one were you at here?
It
Where's
just
he at
came
on
in
Facebook?
Facebook at 8:11. It says stop ignoring the obvious. I'd love to talk, whatever that is. I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Oh, my boy, that's my buddy too. He's a good dude.
Okay.
Let's see, where's it at? Comments. There it is here. So, Mike, if you got something to say, man, go ahead and definitely, chime in and tell us what it is you were talking about, man. Give a little more in depth of that one. But yeah. But until then, we'll go ahead and continue. I'll wait for him to chime in. But yeah, so like those are the type of things that we have to, recognize, is that we're not the only ones, right? This is not your situation is not unique to you. It's literally somebody else, another man, and going through the same situations you're going through. And that's the hard part. The first, to help us get over that we need to get over is that particular area is that we think that we're the only ones. So,
yeah, no, true. I think it's great, and I think it'd be really cool to find ways to get those bullet points into more routine of people's daily life. So they might hear it tonight, but 3 weeks from now they're going to need a reminder, and I think that's good for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, let's see if he's chimed in. Did he say anything else? Probably
No,
not.
I haven't seen anything else. I just don't know what the topic was that it was just happened. So
Yeah, and more than likely, it's just probably what we do is we ignore, right? We ignore a lot, right? We do is like, it's no big deal. We just because that's like our defense mechanism is to minimize the big picture,
Sure.
right? Is we just ignore it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. It's no problem. And I think that's where that stress, the added stress kind of comes over us. And that's where we end up having health problems is because and it could be that. And I'm pretty sure that's where he is because he's another guy who's on a mission. He's been, on his journey of losing weight and really staying consistent. And he's talked about a lot of things too, is that, it's helped him with life. And like, as I share with people all the time is when you start going on a journey, have it be a weight loss journey, have it be a fitness journey, have it be a mental journey, right? The one that you're going on is that you'll start to see there will be breakthroughs in other aspects of your life that will start to happen. You're like, man, I wasn't even intending on this happening. Like you said, I'm pretty sure so did you have was your goal to lose 40 pounds or was that just something that happened along the way? Or did you have goals of I guess having breakthroughs mentally and you had the weight loss along the way? Like which one was it?
Man, so did not have the initial attention. I was probably damn near I was probably 290 when I started. You guys probably saw me in the 260 range.
Okay.
And I'm down in the upper 230s now. And I got a couple things, not drinking Monsters 5 times a day, not eating fast food 3 shifts a day, all help, right?
Yeah.
But also getting the mental clarity. So it's crazy to say, but I started mushroom coffee, Rise mushroom coffee.
I hate that shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. It took a minute. It took a minute, but that running through you, and you start just making better choices. Now you're at home, so you're cooking your own meals. At the grocery store, I started doing like this 90-10 rule where I get 90% of my groceries on the outer circle. And then you just kind of go down the aisles for that last 10%. So if you do your grocery shopping and do 90% of your grocery shopping on the outer ring, that's your fruits, vegetables, meat, all your fresh products, and then stay out of the cereals, the chips, and all the stuff that's in the middle.
I like that.
Just started doing like little things like that, man. And as time goes on, it just starts to fall off. And it's at this point now, I got to fight for every pound. At some point, it doesn't just fall off anymore.
Yeah.
But it does, man. You kind of get it's back to our training days, man. You prep all off season, and then you get in the season, and you're amazing in the preseason. And like by the 5th game of the season, or in basketball, probably by the time Christmas break comes around, you got that little fluff on because it's like you're not training at the same quality, right, and the same speed during the season because you're just kind of on cruise control when the games are going on. And so I just for me, it just became relating athletics to life. Is I saw a little bit of benefits. My knees didn't hurt, my hips felt better, and so it became a passion that I could kind of lose myself in listening to a podcast or listening to something, and while doing it, put the headphones in and knock out 10,000 steps, no problem.
Right.
That's so great, but no, I never had the intention of like, I'm this weight loss and going to do it, all that. I think it just naturally became in the course of bettering myself. It just was one of the added bonuses that came with it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you'll start one thing and then something else will happen 100%. And you'll have a breakthrough there. And it's like, man, you just start to pick up things, but it's just, that's why I know I looked at potentially doing that. What was it? Something hard, 75 and hard or 75 hard, like, yeah, whatever it is. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do something like that, but I listen, I give everybody their props for doing it. It's definitely something different.
Just choose nice weather for that one because it's like what, a 40-minute workout inside and a 40-minute workout outside every day or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I think it's like I think the concept of it's like a gallon of water a day, read 10 pages, 2 workouts, and like eat, I don't know, whatever the diet is. But yeah, I mean that's but you have the same mindset I do. You former athlete, When you put your mind to it, you're not going to fail because you don't want it to fail, even though
Yep.
it's a stuff. Which is good to have, but at the same time, it's exactly the stigma that we're on here trying to talk to break. Because if you continue to grind away, what is the outcome, the long-term outcome that you're going to get from that? And I think that's damaging.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, like it's like just my self health has now become like a priority. Like mentally, situations I'm not going to stick it. I'm not going to push. Right. If I don't feel it's working, I'll just remove myself from it, or situations where, I have to be at work or in just, personal or, foods and things like that. I've had to learn myself. I went and got an allergen test, man, like to learn what my body all over again, to understand like what potentially could trigger me in weight gain, because the older we get, the same foods that we used to like don't like us anymore. Right. So, but you have to learn that. And sometimes we ignore it. Right. Because it's always something we've done. And we'll see like, man, I feel extra bloated today, or I feel a certain kind of way. I'm got indigestion or whatever. But like your body's telling you something.
Oh, yeah.
Automatically.
Sure.
You got to listen to it. But sometimes you just ignore it. 100%. So yeah, that's big. So you got to learn yourself for sure.
Yeah.
So let's see. This is kind of towards the back end of the podcast, and we talk about the desserts, right? So this is kind of where this is basically what we're talking about is the real strength. What does real strength look like? And like these are the top 5 things, top 5 signs you're growing, even if you don't know even if you're not grinding, you're growing, right? So one is you say how you feel, how you really feel. 2, you take breaks without guilt. I think that's one of the hard things. I will say it's kind of hard for me. Number 3, you set boundaries, even with people you love. I think that is one of the most important things, is that sometimes people will test you because of the old person that you used to be or the person that they want you to be. You have to really kind of set your boundaries. And even in my book, I've kind of talked about this. I've said your baseline is identifying where you are. Your finish line is identifying where you want to go. And your rules that you create and your boundaries, right? I'm not going to allow somebody to do this thing, right? I'm not going to allow somebody to do this thing, to do that thing. And that's kind of that's your game board. That's your board or your field, whatever you want to call it, right? But then that's where you're occupying majority of your time. And then number 4 is you choose your pace. I'm sorry, you choose peace over proving yourself. That's pretty damn big right there, man. Choosing peace over proving yourself. You know how some people are like, hey man, like for me, I'm pretty sure they probably say the same thing to you. Hey man, you play ball? Right? They'd be like, hey man, you play ball? Like, yeah, I play. It was you besides I play ball. I'm like, bro, it's been a while. I really don't care anymore. Right? I'm not here to prove myself. That shit hurts.
Well, that's like when I hit you and I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? And you're like, no. I'm like, he's not even an athlete, bud. I was just showing you a picture.
I was like, okay, guys. I'm like, bro, I don't think you play anymore. Yeah. I was like, oh, he speaks for the. Okay, I didn't know that part. I was like, I thought he was an athlete. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then number 5 is you let go of the need to carry it alone. You let go of the need to carry it alone. That's when you start looking at partnership. You start looking at, collaboration. I think for 2024, that was like my main goal was collaboration. So that was me meeting Otis. Like, I know you may not notice it, but I've only known Otis for like a year.
Yeah.
I met Otis on the tail end of, I think it was 2023, or the beginning of 2024. But ever since then, like that was part of the collaboration. These were my intentions. This is what I put in the universe. And like you talked about your mindset and changing things is, you'll be surprised when you start using that frontal lobe, right? How powerful it is in attracting people that are like-minded or that are in alignment with what you're doing. You know what I mean? From business to personal to, to spiritual, to whatever it is, you start to find alignment with people, and you'll just be just like literally attracting people that just come in your life that are doing what you're doing, that are up to the similar things that you're up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old are the kids, man?
My daughter's 7 and my son's 5.
Mm.
They're freaking awesome. They're great.
Those are fun ages. Yeah. I'm not there
Yeah,
anymore.
they're awesome.
I'm at 20 and 14.
Yeah, good for you. No, I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously every part of growth is different, and I'm cherishing the moments I have at their current ages. But there'll be things to look forward to as they grow and become a little bit more of themselves, and there'll be times that I miss where they rely on you for everything. So just enjoying the moments as they come in, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
So
man, to talk about your 5, I think I'm sitting here taking notes as you're writing. I think it's really cool. So I'm taking a second for reflection. But one of the things I think about it is when it says like how you feel and taking breaks with guilt and your boundaries, choosing peace over proving yourself, and leaving to let go to carry alone. Man, I think they're really powerful statements, and I think it's wholeheartedly really just making life intentional. Finding an intention, making your growth intentional, making sure that you are focused on yourself with intentionality. And intention can be one of many things, but I think as you've discovered in yourself with your relationship with people, and in your growth of the podcast and your growth in your personal development and your real estate world and all that, you're doing it with intentionality. And you've chose, as you're writing your book, I'm sure you're seeing your true self and your true colors come alive in that. Is all these things that you're speaking, you're doing them naturally because you know that they're processing now. And that's for me as well. And I don't want to speak to your behalf, but I think as our conversations have gone on, and just especially tonight's conversation, is it's so important to be aware of your surroundings, but also at the same time create your surroundings, right? You put yourself in successful situations, put yourself in environments and around people that want to do better. Not every person is going to be the greatest thing for you on that given day, but it gives you the opportunity to find a successful connection, and it's kind of the things I've learned. One of the things I've picked up, and I would have always retained my information, training in sports, training in school, in life. I always just piled it away. And I heard a saying a long time ago, and I didn't realize it until this year, but it's become a river, not a reservoir. Meaning, let life live through you. Pass everything along. Let the water move on. Give your knowledge out. Train others. Have conversations with others. If you just sat there and lived in a reservoir and had a big dam up, that's great that you know everything and you study all this stuff and you're squared away and you have the greatest success and you have the most finances and you have all these great things. Are you living? Ask yourself that. Are you helping others? Are you growing? Are you helping others become better? Are you providing value to other people? And that's kind of, as I hear you say these things, it's the same thing, man. Like, you being able to speak that out loud and come up with the thought processes and to be able to put words into a book, you're passing along knowledge that you took a lot of time and intentionality to learn and to develop yourself. And I think it's really impressive that you're willing to allow others a piece of that mind, because that's the only way they're going to grow. And guess what? It's going to create a creative mindset and a thought-provoking pattern that's going to allow for them to grow. And we might learn from that person.
Yeah. I was, so one of the things that while I was writing it, like I've actually rewrote it like 3 times already. And not in a sense like completely rewrote, but like as I was writing, like I got more information, I got more, data, right? And one of the things that in this version, I talk about the seasons, and I talk about the law of farm, right? And I was listening to Myron Golden talk about the law of farm. And law of farm is as such. It basically says you have three laws within the law of farm. You have the law of season, the law of seed, the law of sow, and the law of sacrifice. And inside of seasons, you have the winter. The winter is basically the cold season. It's hard. It's tough. It's when people typically want to give up, right? And then you have the season of like, and understanding like what that season is for, what it's meant for. It's meant for development. It's meant for reflection. It's meant for planning, right? And then you have the season of spring, right, which is a season of hopefulness, right? That's when you're planting your seeds. That's when you're watching, or you understand that I cannot bury seeds on cold ground. I have to wait for it to warm. When it becomes spring, now I'm able to bury my seeds and allow those things to grow. So then you go through the process of the summer. The summer basically is a law of the season of happiness, right? So now you start to see it come up. You start to see the colors, they change. And then the season of harvest is the fall, right? That's when you are reaping. That's when you're reaping from the benefits and all the hard work that you've gone through. But you have to you have to go through the hard times to get to the good times, right? To the harvest. And inside of that, it talks about when you plant seeds, understanding that when you plant a seed, it's amazing because a seed grows both ways, right? And it's crazy because you don't know which side is supposed to grow. Like you don't put this, like, which side am I supposed to put it up? Or, it doesn't say this side up, it doesn't say this side down. It just knows, right? And when you plant it, it goes down to grow roots. It grows up to grow a tree, right? And on that tree, it grows, leaves and everything, and it bears fruit. Do you know that the fruit that the tree produces, right? Or the fruit that the tree produces is not for the tree. It is for other people. Mm-hmm. So I'll say for you to go off and continue to be that tree for other people, just very similar to what your river and your reservoir, right? Let everything flow through you and go through you. And that's where you're supposed to get to. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Man, that's a mic drop moment right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, dude. So I'm excited about it.
No, I never heard that philosophy. I love it, man. I'm going to have to steal it from you at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, man. Anytime. I got a couple of them, man. Because I stole from other people too. Because I listen to you do a lot of reading. I don't have enough time to finish a whole lot of reading, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of people speak. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So here we are at the final final orders, or we always call the our to go box. These are some things we just want people to take away with them. One of the things that we you usually talk about is just like this is kind of our moment to where it's just a call to action or just a last minute mic drop like you just mentioned. But I kind of want you to kind of tell
Sure.
What did you get out of this? What are some final words that you can probably give to somebody else?
Yeah, I think most importantly is about relationships before anything else. Don't be afraid as a man to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to reach out to a buddy, and don't be afraid to forge new relationships. As we said, in people in our growth pattern, is we met at a random hotel in a random location last year, and look where we are at a year later. And it's invaluable that you would never have those moments if you came with a hardened image of you're the best, or you don't need anything, or you're not willing to accept anything of growth. And I think that's important. And, that's kind of my final thing I would say to anybody else is, man, I think a lot of part of my life, I thought it was unvaluable and untouchable, but inside I was broken. And when you find that you're not broken inside and you find your self-worth, everything else around you grows from that. And if you're ever in a situation where you don't feel comfortable, you don't know where to go, there's always someone you can turn to, and if you don't have that person, reach out to Donovan and get my information and call me. I will have a genuine conversation with anyone in this world if that's what it takes to just grow, and find a happiness. And I think that's most important, is to continue to grow your networks and help one another out. I said this whole world is about we make it about perception, and I think it's about relationships. I think it's about the human connection. Especially in this age of social media and LinkedIn and profiles and everything else, the number one thing we've lost is just human interaction, and it's having deep and genuine conversations with other humans. And I think that would be the takeaway for me is if nothing else in this world comes about, I hope I meet one other person outside of me and you today that's listening and wants to reach out. Is to grow one new relationship and see where that goes and continue to grow. And I think that would be the same in return for you and everybody else is, if you need a friend, reach out, and you never know what you're going to learn from that other individual.
Yeah, I have somebody I'm going to put you guys in a text message together. They reached out to me and told me they definitely want to link up with you. They potentially may have some opportunities, see if it's something you might be interested in. So definitely want to get that over to you. My final note would be is that we're not here to carry the load alone, right? There is strength in numbers. There is strength in understanding that everybody kind of plays a position, right? And coming from both of us with a sports background is that you can only do so much by yourself. You need other players, you need other people and support and helping out. Because in this game called life, dude, it gets very, very tough. Strength isn't always about silence either. You have to actually say something. It's about survival. And let's start choosing ourselves. Let's choose yourself over, like your peace over someone else's, I don't know, just someone else's potential happiness, right? Because again, how long is that going to last? You're trying to make someone else happy. How long is that going to last? I feel that is not your job, is to make someone else happy. I feel like you don't have to try. Either you are or you aren't, right?
100%.
For that person. So that's real big for me. And then, let's stop measuring our manhood by how much we can take, and let's start measuring it by how real we can be. I think that's super important, man.
Yeah, and how much you can give. Let's call for what it is.
Yep.
We could take all day, but are you willing to give it? And that's for the youth, that's for our peers, and that's for our own family.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Well, listen, Jimmy, man, I really thank you for being here, man, having these conversations with me, this conversation with us.
Yeah.
And you're on mute. Can't hear you. Don't know what happened. All right. Well, I guess there he is. All right, cool.
You get it?
Yep.
I don't know what happened. My phone got Yankee the last 28 seconds of the show. Sorry about that.
Of course. No, go ahead.
Yeah. No. I was just gonna say I appreciate it, and thank you very much for everything. And I got cut off in 2 seconds, but I just wanted to say, genuinely give my gratitude and my appreciation to you guys. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm really proud of you guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, man. So again, this is the Full Menu Podcast. You guys really listen, go out and like our page. We are at the Full Menu Podcast on IG, on Facebook, on Yahoo, on Twitch, and I'm sorry, not Yahoo, on YouTube. And then also that is our email address, info@fullmenupodcast.com. And thank you guys again. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I hope this made a difference for you. If you're just out there listening, women, I hope this gave you some more insight into, the men's psyche and how we think. Men out there, if you need some help, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We are accessible. Feel free to reach out to, Jimmy. Jimmy is definitely, he's a certified professional now. So I'm proud of him for that. And thank you guys again for tuning into the Full Menu Podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one, guys.
All right, you too, bro. Take care.
See you.